Follow the conversation. This is Afternoon on the Dove.
Well, good afternoon. Welcome to Afternoons on the Dove. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson, and today, we got kind of an interesting program for you. Us baby boomers, we'll never admit that we are one, getting to those times in life that we begin to ask the questions, are we preparing properly for things that might be ahead of us? And we have a special guest today that has written a book entitled Why Wait? The Baby Boomer's Guide to Preparing Emotionally, Financially, and Legally for a Parent's Death. And we are delighted to have with us today Carolyn Brent. Carolyn has her BA degree in Business Administration from the National University in Los Angeles. She went on to got her MBA at the University of Phoenix. She currently resides in Northern California. And those of you watching on the Dove TV right now, unfortunately, our Skype connection, she lives probably way out in the sticks somewhere because we can't get a real connection. So we got your picture, we got your book. So, Carolyn, I'm so sorry we couldn't get the Skype to work too well, but it's a delight to have you with us today. How are you doing?
I am doing wonderful, thank you, and thank you for inviting me.
Oh, that's great. I mean, do you have cars where you live? I mean, how far out in the woods are you?
Actually, you know what? The nearest town is only 17 miles away, and we do have transportation. We don't have a gas station or anything, but yeah, we do live in. I live in a little tiny town, but it's really cool.
Have you heard of this thing called a computer? I mean, have you guys up to that?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay. All right, just kidding. This is great. Well, listen, I really appreciate this. And what led you to do this? I mean, you got a rich history of doing a lot of things, but what led you in to take on this subject?
Well, first of all, I never would have chosen this as a career path. I believe I was ordained by God to do this because of caring for my father, 12 years, 1 out of 8 children. I volunteered for the position. You know, I didn't realize that what I had volunteered for. When you take care of a parent, you take care of your parents because you love them. However, during my walk, in regards to caring for my dad, my other adult siblings thought, well, because I don't have children and because I wasn't married, I had all the time to do so. So when things got sticky and complicated, I still couldn't, they didn't want to have the crucial conversations because they stayed in the denial state that Dad's going to be okay and you could handle it. So as 12 years had passed, Dad, his condition was getting worse for a number of different reasons. Towards the end of what my siblings thought was my father's life, they decided, okay, 12 years, you've done enough, we're going to take over, and they actually dragged me through 3 jurisdictions trying to get conservatorship over my dad because they thought there was money to be had. And that's when it was placed on my heart because I was so angry, so hurt, disappointed, and just, going through the walk of as a caregiver, no one knows how difficult that walk is because a part of you dies along with that person. You're constantly trying to save them. And what I mean by that, with my dad, every doctor's appointment I took him to, I would walk out and go, wow, thank you, God. Dad's going to be, Dad's going to be fine for today. Because today is the only day, and that's the best it's going to be for that parent. We don't know if tomorrow is going to be a good day. So I lived from day to day just praying each step of the way, dear God, give me the strength, give me the courage, give me the knowledge to care for my father. So as a result of my walk as a caregiver of 12 years and being attacked by the family because of money they thought was there, I thought, well, why should I try to sue my family for defamation of character? Why should I do this? I hear about stories after story after story with siblings fighting over so-called inheritance. I said, I'm going to go and I'm going to get some laws changed to not only protect that senior that have put things in place, but also the good, abiding caregiver that's given his or her life for that senior. So I've been working with Congress, the U.S. Congress, and also now my state with the Governor Jerry Brown's office with the hope and the aim of changing laws to protect the caregiver and the senior when they put their wishes in order. And many of the American population, they don't realize we're all at risk for not putting our paperwork in order or not knowing how to put it in order. And my dad, he had chosen me to be his fiduciary, his medical directive in case of a disability, death, or illness in any of the above. He did that through, or we did that through the federal government because Dad was a veteran. But we did not know that we should have put the paperwork in place in the state. And that was when Dad was cognitive and in his right mind. He knew that he needed to do the paperwork, but we was unaware that the state doesn't recognize what the federal is doing, and the federal won't recognize the state. So that's why it was such a mess at the end of what my family thought was my father's life.
So your father had some things in place, but not everything in place?
Yeah, my father had. We thought it was everything in place, but this is the catch. We went through the federal to get the power of attorney, the medical directive, and a will. Those are three wonderful documentations for a person to have.
Now, was your dad cognitive at that point?
Absolutely.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, my father, all three of us, it was myself, my father, and also a representative from the Veterans Administration, and I took an oath, before this person and in front of my dad that I would, be his fiduciary, meaning that I would take care of my father's finances because Dad was slipping a little, but he was okay. But he did not want that responsibility anymore, and I was more than happy to help with his medical, his financial, and everything. And during that time, my dad and I did not know that we should have put that paperwork in the state to get what is known as a conservatorship. We didn't know to do that. We just thought putting the paperwork with the federal government, that was the end-all and everything we needed. But where I made my mistake, I misplaced that very important document. I misplaced it. I had it for 12 years, but I had no idea. After moving several times, I had no idea where I placed it. So I thought, I could just call up the federal government and get a copy.
Yeah, right.
Boy, oh boy,
yeah.
What a mistake that was. It took a year and a half for me to prove that I was my father's appointed fiduciary, and I couldn't get the paperwork. It took an act of Congress. Congressman Jerry McNerney ended up getting the paperwork to show that I was my father's fiduciary. But by then, my family members had taken me to a local state court filing abuse charges. And when you have abuse charges filed against you, you cannot go near that senior until they investigate. But this is where the catch is. I had abuse charges placed against me, and I have this in my book too. And I had gone before the judge along with my father's doctors because I saved my father's life. He had what is known as a massive hematoma, which is bleeding of the brain. And I share with you how he developed that. But anyway, I had the doctor and all of the attorney, my attorney, everybody was there, and this sibling went before the judge and said, "Oh, Your Honor, I drop all charges." And I'm thinking, yay, I get to see my dad as soon as I leave the court. But as soon as I walked out of the courthouse, her daughter walked up to me, and I'm thinking that her daughter is going to give me a big, fat hug. She gives me another restraining order in another county with the same charges. That happened to me 3 times. So the sibling went from one court to one jurisdiction to another court because when you have multiple restraining orders placed against you in different counties, one county doesn't know that there's a restraining order in another county, nor do they care, because I tried to tell the judge in the other county that the charges were placed against me in the previous county, and this sibling dropped the charges and placed it there. But the judge said, well, what happens in that county happens in that county. If you want to do something to your sister, you have to sue her. And I just thought, you know what? The system has flaws. Wow. We need to correct the flaws.
This is an incredible story, but it's not a surprising one because I know of these things that happen. Were you ever suggested during the process when your father was still cognitive and he was asking you to become his power of attorney, so to speak, to consider it a living trust?
You know what? We didn't think of that. We didn't think of that at all. And that's why I'm on the bandwagon in regards to having a living trust. But this is another catch that people don't realize. A living trust is only good when that person is dead. That's it. That's all a living trust will do. It will protect that person's wishes, that person's assets, only when they close their eyes and they're gone to glory. But while that person is alive, it's very, very imperative for a person to know that anybody could contest your will. They could contest everything, but the trust is the only thing that is like a vault that the family, someone may try to fight over it, but the judge will throw it out.
Yeah, but so, you could have been named trustee of the trust. Absolutely,
but see, my father never died.
Oh.
He's still not dead to this day.
Okay.
He's brain dead, but he is still alive, and that happened September 19th, 2008. Oh, the family member thought Dad was dying, and she possibly hoped that Dad was dying. But this is the other myth that a lot of people have about caregivers. I'm a professional person that's worked in pharmaceuticals for many, many, many years, almost 17 years. As a result, I've worked my way up to, at that time, because I'm not in the industry, as to a clinical education manager, traveling around the country, earning a very, very wonderful income, period, over 6 figures a year for a single person for me. And I used my finances to keep our father in private facilities. I used my finances. My dad had, when I sold his home or helped him sell his home, he had $106,000 when he was 75 years old that I knew of, because a lot of seniors, they may have assets someplace if they could remember where they are, but that's why it's good for people to get to write everything, all their assets down, to truly have a trust, so that if there is an unexpected tragedy, your family will know where these benefits are. But to make a very long story short, my dad, I had only $106,000, and I'm going, oh my God, this is no money. What am I going to do? How am I going to make this stretch over the rest of his life? Mm-hmm. And that is a myth when a person thinks $106,000 is a lot of money and people are going to fight over it. That money left immediately. As soon as my father had to start living in assistant living, because he couldn't no longer live with me, because Dad was, had the early signs of dementia starting to, I would come home from work and the kitchen would be on fire. That happened a couple of times. And then I thought, you know what, there's something going on here. You can't just, I know that often I get really busy and sidetrack, and maybe I'll leave, the stove on, but I've never left the stove on to the point where my kitchen is almost on fire. And I talk about that. I also talk about in my book how Dad, taking away the keys from him. I'm letting Dad drive his car to the grocery store a few blocks away. And one evening, Dad never came home. And to look for a parent that should have been at the store, and then you get a phone call and you find out that your parent is 250 miles away looking for your house.
Oh, boy.
That's something that you got to think, there is a problem here.
Well, we're going to have to take a break here, Carolyn, but let me ask you this before we take the break. Back to your family, unfortunately, filing charges against you. What evidence did they have, and how could they make a restraining order stick without some form of evidence?
That's a great, great question. Anytime there is a restraining order or charges against someone that is harming a child or a senior citizen, that's a restraining order. They could put anything they want. So what happens, the courts automatically have to do the investigation, and that takes about 30 days to make sure you haven't done any harm to that child or the senior. And then when you go before the judge actually told my sister it was ridiculous charges because she went before the judge before she dropped the charges and said, well, I think my sister is going to do X, Y, and Z. And the judge actually told her, this sounds like a probate problem. And she said, oh, I dropped the charges. But anybody, right now, the way the system is set up, anyone could just go and say, this person has harmed this child or this senior, and the judge has to do their due diligence and investigate. So what happens, the person filing the charge, if it's a family member, they become automatic temporary power of attorney. That's pretty scary.
Whoa. All right, let me take a break. We're talking to Carolyn Brent. She's authored a book, Why Wait? The Baby Boomer's Guide to Preparing Emotional, Financial, and Legal for a Parent's Death. You can tell this is extremely valuable information. And if you have any questions, by the way, we can conference you in with Carolyn. The phone number is 776-5368, and we'd welcome your questions there as well. We'll take a quick time out. We'll be right back.
Follow the conversation. This is Afternoon on the Dove. Choices, making the right one at the right time can change your life.
We want to challenge you to make right choices.
The choice that I had to make is, am I going to do this on my own? Or am I going to ask Jesus to walk beside me?
Bruce Hill takes a look at some of the decisions we make every day, as well as some of life's biggest forks in the road. Choices, 7:30 tomorrow on the Dove TV.
I can guarantee we will get you thinking.
I'm putting my clothes out. Ready for my trip back home. Woohoo!
Come with us on a journey to a land of wonder and new discoveries. After studying abroad, one young man returns home to the Solomon Islands for a wedding event. Anna Mako, 9 o'clock Saturday on the Dove TV. Over 7 million people worldwide read his daily devotional, The Word for You Today.
Heaven pronounces no man innocent till he can first plead guilty.
Join Bob Gass from Brisbane, Australia for this inspiring, thought-provoking message.
That's why Jesus came, lived, died, and rose again. To reconnect you with God, to give you purpose and beyond this life.
An Evening with Bob Gass. 8 o'clock Saturday on the Dove TV. Follow the conversation. This is Afternoon on the Dove.
Well, today we have a very interesting guest and a topic that is ever so big. And we have Carolyn Brent with us today. She's authored a book, Why Wait? The Baby Boomer's Guide to Preparing Emotionally, Financially, and Legally for a Parent's Death. And if you're watching on the Dove TV, there's the picture of the book right now. Unfortunately, we're unable to Skype Carolyn in today, but we do have her on the phone. And this topic is an emotional one. And Carolyn, your story, unfortunately, is repeated again and again and again. And I'm so glad that you now have become an activist and trying to straighten some of this mess out, because when you're trying to sincerely and respectfully take care of your parents, and all of a sudden you realize there's laws in the way, and then you get the whole dynamics of siblings and family, and I don't know why these things go crazy, but they do, and unfortunately they tear families apart. Let me comfort you in with a call here first, because I have a ton of questions, but let me take a few moments here and go to Marilyn. Hi, you're on the phone with Carolyn. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Marilyn.
Oh, Marilyn. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I listening to Carolyn speak, this is exactly what I'm beginning to get into with my mother. She is 83, and she's been living with me most of the year, and then with my sister for giving me breaks. But she's in the stages of dementia or Alzheimer's, where she's getting less and less able to be in the real world. But my mother's a Christian and loves the Lord, and so she and I have that to share. And my other sister is a believer, but she's not entrenched in the Word, so she doesn't have the faith that I do. And she's getting to the point where she doesn't want to take care of Mom at all, so I'm not going to be getting breaks anymore. So my mother's house is on the market, and when it sells, the money will go into her account. And my mother is she's holding on to her money. She watches it, and she's having a hard time keeping track, but she's watching it. She will not be giving over to anybody's responsibility, the ability to pay bills for her and everything right now. So she's even though I help her to pay her bills every month, she will not turn that over to anyone. And so I'm beginning a living trust for her, and I'm beginning the documents about directives, and I want to do the guardian. There's one other paper about that you have the right to make decisions when your mother can't. Those are the only documents I know about. Is there anything else I should be doing?
Yeah, well, actually, you're on the right track. What you're doing is getting a medical directive, and the medical directive is when your mother right now, if she's able to say, well, when I die, or when I get sick, I do not want to be on life support, or I want to go to XYZ hospital, medical directive, so you can make medical decisions for her. Also, you may definitely want to get a power of attorney. And my best suggestion to anybody out there, I really am an advocate to only seeking out geriatric attorneys. And what I mean by geriatric attorneys, they specialize in end-of-life issues that can prevent families from having the problems, because they'll protect the caregiver. Now, keep in mind, caregivers are the one that typically get beat up by family members at the end of life. So if you have a power of attorney, which will give you the right to make medical and also financial decisions for your mom if she truly slipped into dementia and she's doing crazy things like buying 25 cars at a car dealership. Things like that happens as well.
Right. Yeah, she did the thing where she got in her car and drove and ended up in many towns away, lost, but she's in denial. We won't let her drive anymore, but we haven't said that to her. We just don't, we just drive for her in our cars. And she won't sell her car because she still has her license, and so she's to the point where she can't remember her grandchildren's names or if her sister's died, that has died, and who's her family lives in France. And so it's difficult.
Has she signed the trust?
Not yet. She hasn't signed it because. But when she comes back at the end of the year to be with me, that's the first thing we're going to take care of. I've started drawing the papers, but we haven't finalized them.
Do you have siblings involved?
I have 4 sisters and a brother.
Are they all in favor of you being the power of attorney?
No, this is a very tricky question because they probably would be now in these early stages, and that's why I should do it. Because they'll say they'll do anything to give Mom over to my care, because none of them can have a household that can take her in.
All right, so they're in favor of you taking care of her, but are they in favor of you becoming the power of attorney?
That we'll see.
Okay, well, I have a wonderful suggestion. Had I known I was in your same situation, everyone wanted me to take care of Dad, and I really want you to hear what I'm saying. They were supportive. Oh, Dad, girl, you're doing a great, great job. But had I known, it's called a sibling contract. A sibling contract, actually, your siblings are saying, you take care of Mom, we're busy, or we don't want to do it. Have them to sign the contract. And there's very few attorneys in the U.S. that know of this, but there's a lady named Carolyn Rosenblatt in California. She is the one that I researched, and I found that there is a sibling contract that's been out for 5 years. And what will happen when you have a sibling contract and everybody knows what their role is going to be, at the end of your mother's life, they cannot drag you through court, falsify documentations, and take you to the cleaners because of what they think you've done or what they think you're going to do or think what you're going to get. It's very, very, very important that if you give your life, or when you give your life, because that's what you're doing when you're caring for someone in your home with a mother, it could be a father, it could be a sibling, those are unpaid positions, and people don't realize that it is a very difficult job. Your mother could slip into what is known as sundowners. As soon as the sun goes down, you could find your mother standing over your bed, choking you. And that's not like the cute little mother in the daytime, but at night, that's what happens to a lot of these seniors. And I pointed out, there's psychologists that talks about it. When the siblings are not involved, you are setting yourself up for attack. So it's better to prevent
I'm already
it.
scared of it.
Yeah. All right. Good
I'm already
advice.
afraid of it.
Yeah, good advice. All right. Thank you, Marilyn.
Thank you so much. I'll follow that advice, and I will even try to get in touch with that attorney that you mentioned.
She's on my website, Carolyn Rosenblatt.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
What's your website?
My website is caregiverstory.com, and look under resources, legal, and you'll find Carolyn there.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Maybe you have some questions today. You're welcome to join us as well. We're talking to Carolyn Brent. As you can tell, this is a big topic. And Why Wait? The Baby Boomer's Guide to Preparing Emotionally, Financially, and Legally for Your Parents' Death. Boy, there's so many questions. I did not know that there was a sibling contract. Is that a new document?
Absolutely. It's only 5 years old, and it was developed by an attorney in the Midwest because there's like 79 million baby boomers here in the U.S., and their parents are the traditionalists. They're 66 years and above, and they're starting to die off. So the baby boomers that are between the ages that were born between 1946 and 1964, we're pretty old too. So as a result, the adult siblings are starting to fight for mom and dad's assets because back when we were born as baby boomers, the average families had like at least 5 kids, so there's a lot of different attitudes. There's a lot of different, like in my family, everybody felt this entitlement, like they're entitled to something. Wow. And that's true if that were the case. But as we live longer, if a person truly cares for their parent in the proper way, they're going to cash out anyway. There's not going to be any money left.
All right. Boy, this is, again, if you have any questions, you're welcome to join us. The phone number is 776-5368, 776-5368. Carolyn, I'm kind of jumping all around here because we're going to run out of time. I got to take another break here in about a minute. Okay. But let me ask you this question quickly. We've heard the sad stories that there are some care funds available through Medicaid, Medicare, and those kinds of things, but they usually wipe out the estate before those kick in. And right. People are trying to scramble to see if the estate can be distributed before that kicks in. You probably have heard all of those stories. Right. Can you sum that mess up? What's the law say on all that?
Well, that's a great question. If a parent has any money, let's say that the kids decide, well, let's just take all of mom and dad's money and then put them on welfare, the state is going to look 7 years of records to see what assets that person has, because it's stopping people from taking their entire wealth, their estate, giving it to the kids and letting the government just take over and house these people. So that's what that is. And also, if you do get on Medi-Cal or Medicaid or whatever the programs are, it's the only time it's a benefit to the senior if the senior has been in, let's say, an assisted living place where it can turn into long-term care, and if they cash out while they're living there, they get to stay there. But if you cash your parents out, 7 years prior and take all of their estate and decide, well, I want to put my parents and let them stay, the government take care of them, they're going to be going to a place, I call it a pee-pee joint. A pee-pee joint is, and that's layman's language, but everyone will understand. You walk into a care facility, and the urine is so thick, it slaps you in your face, and you run out of there. You don't want your parents to go to a place like that.
All right, let me take a break right here. If you have any questions, take advantage of Carolyn being with us. The book is called Why Wait? The Baby Boomer's Guide to Preparing Emotionally, Financially, and Legally for Your Parents' Death. This is a tremendous resource. And so if you have any questions, give us a call, 776-5368. We can conference you in. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Follow the conversation. This is Afternoon on the Dove.
In America, we're insulated from death. It just isn't something to think much about. Because we're afraid of it, sure, but also because of what death could mean. Every week, we take a look at the little stories that make up the big picture of our lives. This time, we're looking at the end of all our stories, death. It's a mystery, the mystery that's coming after every single one of us. What's next? Is there anything, or is there everything?
Footnote, 9 o'clock Friday on the Dove TV.
We probably got 100 people working in every corner of this house.
Get the shingles up there and put them on line. Let's go.
What you've given is an incredible change in lifestyle.
Is everybody ready to bring this family home?
The Lord has sent you people to do this for me.
Building a difference. 9 o'clock tonight on the Dove TV.
This program raises questions. This program is for people who find it hard to trust God. The best answers are wrapped in flesh and blood. My friends, people who are enduring real tragedies every single day. Quadriplegia, muscular dystrophy, stroke, bankruptcy, loneliness, singleness. We're going to talk to those very people who have touched my life.
Johnny and Friends, 8:30 tomorrow on the Dove TV. Follow the conversation. This is Afternoon on the Dove.
Well, we are covering a topic that there's no way we can get it done here in the few moments that we have left, and so we're going to try to get Carolyn back as well. It's called, the book that Carolyn Brent has written is called Why Wait? The Baby Boomer's Guide to Preparing Emotionally, Financially, and Legally for a Parent's Death. And Carolyn, you're telling me during the break there's a seminar coming up that people, I guess a webinar, right?
Yeah, it's a worldwide telesummit. It's called a telesummit, and they could find it on my website. It's called caregiverstory.com, and they could go and register for the telesummit. And I have 8 experts from around the country that is going to address everything I talk about in my book, which is the emotional, financial, and legal. And they're experts on the subject.
Well, I know there's some attorneys here in town that specialize in this and do an excellent job. Both of my parents are gone, but I can tell you this. Early on, my mother and my father sat down and went through all of this long before they ever became elderly and ill, and put the trust and the will in place, the medical directives in place, the children's responsibility. There's 5 of us siblings, and everything went smooth. You know?
Absolutely.
So if it's done right, it can end right, and all of their wishes have been fulfilled. And I think that's the most honoring thing anybody can do. Let me conference in here. Melanie, hi. You're on the program with Carolyn today. What's your question?
Hi. I have an 85-year-old mom who I am so happy to say is living with us, and I'm taking care of her. A couple of years ago, Mom has a condition called PSP. It's a cousin of Parkinson's, and so right now she is okay, and with everything, has her mind, but soon that won't be the case. So we have previously, Mom got a revocable trust. I'm a little confused, and I'm going to go to the webinar and also go to Carolyn's website. But a revocable trust, does that protect my husband as the, well, actually it didn't. She wasn't able to get into, he wasn't able to get into her account because of the revocable trust. We had to go around that so he could take care of her finances. I need to be her medical
Well, I think the first thing you need to do, you correct me if I'm wrong, Carolyn, somebody other than her mom needs to be the trustee of the trust.
Absolutely.
And okay, go ahead.
And then you need to get the power of attorney, and you need to make sure that the medical directive is not only in place with, in cooperation with the will and the trust, but the medical directive is on file at the hospital.
Absolutely.
Okay, we do have the post form as far as medical directive that way. Is that what you're not
well,
speaking
that's
of
fine,
that?
but are you or your husband her trustee of the trust?
mother is her own trustee. We had to, so my husband could pay my mother's bills and take care of her finances. We had to go outside of that trust, get a separate checking account, transfer money over so he can be the trust of that account.
Well,
the trustee.
That's problematic, right, Carolyn? I really
Absolutely.
I really think what you need to do is consult an attorney and have you or your husband immediately become a trustee of the trust.
Okay, and then does that attorney also help me be the medical
Yes.
director as well?
Call Jim Smith here in town. That's what he does.
Okay, we'll do that.
He's terrific.
Okay, Terry. Thank you. And thank you, Carolyn. I'll be reading your book.
You're welcome.
Okay. Sorry, Carolyn. I'm up on some of this stuff.
Oh, that's good. No, I love it. You told her.
No,
I'm glad. That's wonderful.
I've been down this road, so yeah.
Absolutely. And also, my book is available right now on Amazon.com.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's conference in Randy. Hi, Randy. You're on the air with Carolyn. What's your question?
Hi, guys. Hi, Carolyn. It's a wonderful, wonderful book you wrote, and I'd like to read it. But I just want to back up what you're saying. I took care of a friend for like 10 and a half months who had terminal cancer, and he had 2 estranged daughters who lived down in Southern California. Never came up to see him until he was dying. And long story short, I got into a discussion with the oldest daughter, and she got very angry with me, and she tried to get me charged. She did charge me with identity fraud or identity theft, something like that.
Yeah.
And it was, and I wasn't after any of his money. I didn't want his money or anything. He was a friend. I was helping out, but you got to really cover your assets with, when you're dealing with stuff like this, when you're helping people out that, like that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And,
without a doubt.
It cost me a lot of money, in the long run.
Absolutely.
But, for nothing.
Good stuff. Thanks, Randy.
You bet.
Well, Carolyn, look, we're going to run out of time. First of all, I want to get you back, but kind of give us the steps. People are probably looking at this, and we're hearing the stories. And listen, I don't know if there isn't anybody out there that hasn't been impacted directly or indirectly by what you're covering here.
Right.
Is there a checklist that a family should look at and go down?
Absolutely. First of all, the family needs to try to start talking, communicating with each other. Now, in not all cases, that's going to be the case. If the families don't sit down and have a crucial conversation about mom and dad, who's ever the responsible person in the family needs to go and get a mediator immediately to try to talk to the family and just put the stuff in order, all the paperwork. Mm-hmm. And the only 3 things that's imperative that a person's going to need is a power of attorney, a medical directive, and also a will and a trust. And a lot of people may not want to do a trust because it can get costly, but it just depends on what's really important for the individuals. Plus, they could do this totally free of charge. They could go online and do LegalZoom.com, get their own paperwork, and do it yourself. But the more complicated cases are, then I highly recommend a geriatric attorney, someone that specializes with sibling rivalry, mediation, and contract law when it comes to siblings.
Now, back to your story. You say your dad's still alive, but he's not cognitive?
No, he's not. Absolutely not. So my father was a pastor, and to me, he still is a pastor. So his ministry now is going through me to help people. And I will live my life to help other folks that they will not experience what I've experienced, because it's very devastating. And the way that I've dealt with my pain, I wrote my book, I did my research, I've done it all to prevent this from happening and to try to change laws to protect the innocent caregiver and to protect a person's wishes for end of life.
How's your argument going down on in Congress?
That's a great question. I'm starting to get support from legislation because, of course, next year is a year that people are voting, but they're backing me. I just sat with the governor. They're looking to appoint me to sit on the board of aging commissions, which means I get will have a voice if I'm selected. Yeah. And basically, hopefully this will be on a ballot that we as citizens can vote for. So that's how it's going. It's been a 4-year process, but you know what? I could see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Good for you. Just curious, are you and your siblings reconciling, getting back together?
Oh, no. I have learned through everything that I've dealt with that there's some things that are not that I have forgiven them, but they're in darkness, and I have chosen to fly in light. That is why there is a pelican on my book cover. I'm flying straight to the sky.
I'm sorry to hear that. That's too bad. You'd be in our prayers for that. Now, is your dad's estate and current needs, are they? Have you got everything in order? It's being taken care of, and the directives are there, and all of that.
Well, see, that's what the deal was. Once my father was taken away from me, literally, because I didn't even want to fight it anymore. I was very, very exhausted with the process. My family had to put my father on welfare, so there's nothing there because what it cost to keep my father in private assistant living. That was $6,500 per month just for a room for him to stay in. Yeah. And my family thought that was for free and that the state was paying for it. That was coming straight out of my pocket. So because once the siblings had fought to get conservatorship, they got conservatorship, and then they found that there wasn't any money, and they had to throw him on welfare. But the good news for me that gives me peace is that the facility where my dad was at, they couldn't throw him out of the building and put him in I call it the state PC joint. It's called cash out because he didn't go in as a Medicaid person, and that's what the term is in California.
Well, I'm delighted you're taking this on. It's a huge topic, and I've personally walked through some of these stories. And the only thing I can say is that when it's done right, everything's taken care of, and it's right. And it's a delight to see it taken care of. When people have the foresight to take responsibility, get their estate in order, have everybody sit down, the family knows who the trustees are, the directives are in place, and all that. It's led me to do the same for my own life, but. There are those mix-ups. But the one thing I did not know, and maybe you can just highlight it quickly before we end here, get back to this sibling contract. What a incredible thing, or instrument, I guess, to be used. Are you seeing it being used, and are people accepting it?
Well, I haven't seen it being used personally because it's so new, and a lot of people don't know about it. But on my worldwide telesummit that's coming up, Carolyn Rosenblatt is going to talk about that, and she's one of the people. When I started doing my research, I found her, and I thought, oh, my God, I wish I would have known about a sibling contract when my family was like, oh, Carolyn, you're doing a good job. Dad, a girl, you take care of Dad. I would have gotten a sibling contract in a heartbeat had I known. But a lot of people think just because your siblings don't want to get involved to do the dirty work, trust me, if you take care of the paperwork, just like you said, then it could be a very smooth transition. People will know what their role is, and caregiving should be a family affair. It really should be, but in most cases, it's not.
Carolyn, thank you. We will probably get a hold of you and reschedule you and get you back. This is a fascinating topic. Quickly, 10 seconds, your website for they can sign up for the webinar.
It's caregiverstory.com, and just click on it says click here. It'll say telesummit. It'll take them to where the telesummit is. They could sign up for the telesummit free, and they'll get free gifts for signing up. And it's November 8th, 9th, and 10th, and it's worldwide in Europe and every place. I'm real excited.
Carolyn Brent, thank you. Why Wait is the name of the book, and get a copy of it. It's put, who you published it by?
Grandpa's Dream.
Okay, and get a copy of it right away. Carolyn, thank you. We'll be in touch and get you back, okay?
Okay, bye-bye. Thank you.
God bless. Bye-bye. And thank you for being with us today, and stick around. We got some great programming, radio and TV, right here on The Dove.